Fuck it, I'm doing this! Hello old-timers and newcomers, I am Core Scratches, and thank you for joining me to take another look at what I found. You know, sometimes I look at Ticker's shadow with confusion. I mean, he knows that his issue is the algorithm not caring much for his content, and yet he perseveres with irrelevant C-list movies that would be better left in a fire pile. I mean, there's plenty of compelling modern horror movies for him to review, like Martyrs, Malignant, Midsommar, or maybe something that doesn't even begin with an M. I mean, currently he's padding his output with thematically irrelevant but algorithmically appealing shitposts that just leaves me wondering, why doesn't he review more relevant horror movies? You know, movies with, well, relevance, with mass appeal and all that other stressy nonsense. Then I remember that I too love talking about movies no one else does, and how I look at something like Cloverfield and quiver. The Rendlesham UFO Incident is much more comfy. No one's heard of it, very few cares, and I'll get into its production in a bit. Also known as Hangar 10, it would rather go by Rendlesham UFO Incident, because Alien fans might find it a bit easier. And the fact it needed that extra cheat to boost intrigue tells you all you need to know about the quality we're dealing with here. The Rendlesham UFO Incident captures the final hours of 3 amateur metal detectorists looking for Saxon remains in the forests of Rendlesham, UK, an excursion that turns into a nightmare as they lose themselves in the vast wilderness where strange and horrifying events occur all around them. Serves them right for taking out a camera. You take out a camera, bad things happen. Just look at all the haunted houses on TikTok. Anyway, let's take a look at the Rendlesham UFO Incident and see if at the very least their deaths accounted to a good time. As with all good bullshit, there is a crumble of truth to make it slide down easier. The Rendlesham UFO Incident was a real event that took place in December of 1980 near Rendlesham Forest in Suffolk, where mysterious lights as well as a suspected landing site were recorded by Air Force personnel at the RAF base of Woodbridge in Rendlesham. United States Air Force personnel, so you know this is serious. There's a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding this event, as there always are when it comes to UFO sightings. My favorite of them is the entire thing was a prank played on the US servicemen by the British in retaliation for the British failing to sneak past US defenses and getting roughed up for it. Which, if this had been any other country, this would have been a cause for war. It's like a comedy written by Stanley Kubrick. And unfortunately, the far more likely explanation is that the US servicemen were a gaggle of idiots who couldn't tell the difference between a lighthouse and a flying saucer, and an alien landing site with a bunch of bunny burrows. I'm not kidding. Uncertain whether this should be a feature film or pseudo-documentary, director Daniel Simpson opens to stuttering, sweeping shots of the Woodbridge Air Force Base in the early morning when mist still shrouds the land in mystery and dream, dissolving the hard military might in alien uncertainty, and then tells us this is definitely just footage recovered from a hard drive not meant for public release. No. Someone please get me a job as a consultant for these movies. Either way, artsy horror is nice and all, but we also need to establish our delightfully few characters. There is Gus, played by Robert Curtis, his girlfriend Sally, played by Abby Salt, and her ex-boyfriend Jake, played by Danny Shaler, who I initially thought was her brother.
You can't give me what I can give.
And what exactly is that?
Big, fat, hairy, scratching.
Such a
Look at that.
dick.
I should have been way more disturbed by that than I was. As far as setups go, I've seen worse. Gus is a metal detectorist, and in a bit of moving on from Jake, Sally has invited Jake to make a YouTube video about Gus's hobby, and hopefully document them discovering Saxon refuse in the Suffolk area. Jake is a passionate videographer who films everything he does, but unlike a lot of other found footage movies, this actually comes across as a character trait. And with him being a bit of a busybody, having an interest in the local UFO stories, and of course being annoyed about spending time with his ex's new boyfriend, because of course he is, who wouldn't be. And that is something the movie actually does fairly well. Chemistry. Not necessarily in a romantic sense, but watching the characters interact, you do feel like they've known each other for a long time, with how comfortable they are in each other's presence.
It's going to be a day of adventure. It's going to be a day
Stop
of
it.
treasure.
Stop it.
It's going to be a
Stop
day
it.
of probably immense boredom for your friend.
Their dialogue doesn't feel forced or scripted, and they act the way you'd expect them to.
So I'm loving the camouflage
Stop
and the
filming me! Don't get my
day
socks.
glow
okay?
socks.
Don't get my socks. No, I only
you
have
need
these
any more?
ones.
Eh?
All of the actors do a really good job with what they're given, and I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking this is real BTS footage. Yet. I will say, for being an experienced detectorist, Gus is a bit of a knob, because their first stop is in a plowed field. Also, the main problem with making a YouTube video about metal detecting is it's kind of dull to watch.
Or I ran up the hill needlessly for a bit of junk.
Well, that's where patience comes in, Jake.
Yeah, I suppose.
Losing your audience? Insert awkward jump scare! Keeping calm, they carry on, uncertain about who even owns the land they're on anymore. Which, in my opinion, means they shouldn't be on it whatsoever, but for what it's worth, I'm pretty sure they took a left that should have been a right, and ended up in Mortlake, Yorkshire. Being lost, they take the time to establish Jake believes the Rendlesham Forest incident was real, and Gus doesn't.
They've got audio recordings.
Yeah, but it's all messing about, isn't it?
No, man. There's audio recordings of military guys at work.
It's open to great suspicion with regards to the fact that it's probably a hoax. I mean, this is a bit, you're talking about UFOs and stuff like that. I mean, that's what hoaxes do.
Hey, I'll be the one explaining how found footage works, thank you very much. The day passes with the road under their wheels, and the omens grow thick about them.
Man, that is something you see every day. What is that?
What was he?
My God. Look at that awful CGI smoke. Does that reflect the rest of the movie? Among the gossamer branchworks of the birch trees, a helicopter looms closer, menacing, alarming, warning off any and everyone who may dare to enter the Rendlesham Forest tonight. But as with most horror movies, the characters deserve to die for being dumb.
Just waiting for it to get dark, do a bit of night hawking.
If you're unfamiliar with the term, as I was, night hawking means trespassing on land you're not allowed on to steal archaeological treasure that you don't have a permit to take. And if you think the characters are intelligent enough to not film themselves breaking the law, we wouldn't have a movie if they did.
I mean, we have tried, but we haven't got permission, so technically we are night hawking, which isn't entirely legal.
It's not legal, full stop. It's not like ripping a movie, there's no ifs or buts about it, you're breaking the law. There is an argument to be made for right to roam, and within reason attempting to reach the owners. So to entirely remove any shadow of doubt these people deserve to die for committing a victimless crime by violating minor cautions, they come across a fence barring entry onto the land, but a massive hole in the fence lets them move through without a hassle. On IMDb, this is listed as a goof because it later turns out the land is owned by the Ministry of Defense, and regular checks for breaks or damages in the fence would be a part of everyday maintenance. However, the only two military bases in that area, RAF Woodbridge and RAF Bentwaters, have been out of commission since 1993. The only one that might be bothered to maintain its fences is Bentwaters, which has since become a Cold War museum and occasional movie set. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Soon as they pass the chicken wire, the camera acts up, light flickering on and off for no reason. One final warning that whatever land they have set foot in, they are not welcome. For a long time, the land stays calm, allowing the group further into its black restored depths, until Gus and Sally start to argue about how long they've been there. Uncomfortable watching the fight unfold, Jake distances himself from the quarreling couple, isolating himself, leaving himself alone when the night comes alive around him. If you have seen this movie and feel like I'm rushing through it henceforth, then I apologize, but it is a very atmospheric movie, and there is only so many ways that I can say the tension rises before it becomes boring. Announced by the sky trumpets, the night unleashes its terror upon the surveyors. The ground shakes beneath their feet, distant lights shoots off into the skies, and mechanical screams ring out of the dark. Terrified and exhausted, they persevere into the dawn, keeping their heads down and away from anything that may have made the woods its home, until they may find their way back in daylight. They survive the night and find the path, walk it back to the fence, but, well, they're met by a terrible sight. Somehow someone has spirited the vehicle away, leaving them stranded where they are and forcing them to realize the best option to proceed is to leave the damn path and head off to where Gus thinks the road might be.
But the thing is, the quickest way is to go cross-country this way towards the road. Because if you go back to the track, it does a huge circle around for miles and miles before you even get to the road.
Maybe it's my Jämtland upbringing talking, but that does not sound like a big enough hassle to risk getting lost over. Especially not when the woods are invaded by death.
You don't nick someone's vehicle messing around, do you?
Oh, sweet summer child, you did not hang with the cool kids, did you? Neither did I, but I know most of them are in prison now, which is very satisfying. It quickly becomes clear Gus isn't entirely sure what he's doing either, as they uncover further clues they ought not to be here. In their path looms a dilapidated cabin with a running radio, foodstuff, and a camera that all suggest a surveyor far more official than them, knowing what's going on.
That's the horses. I've seen those horses. What's it going on?
Oh good! It's just some fans of The Last of Us. Don't bring up the sequel, you'll be fine. The horror mounts as the camera turns to pictures of the friends in their car as they slept, and keeps climbing when thunder sounds above them as the sky turns violent and angry, with red lights firing like neurons through the cloud cover, offering them a clear view of their interstellar visitors dancing through the heavens. Jake seizes upon the video like a doubter turned prophet, certain beyond belief they have recorded evidence of alien UFOs. Even if Gus desperately dismisses any such idea as childish fancy and humbug, sure there is a natural explanation. Unusual atmospheric conditions, experimental military aircraft, whatever, just not aliens. But to be fair, he has good reason to suspect it's experimental aircrafts.
So you brought us out to MOD land?
Yes, I did. Night hawking on MOD land. Not particularly clever, I know.
So it wasn't just naive ignorance that put him in the situation, it was Gus knowingly disregarding common sense, and therefore they all deserve to die. Also, apparently the compounds haven't been decommissioned, they are up and running. Is this some sort of alternate reality we're peering into? Jake has had enough of Gus's vapid attitude, so he picks a direction and leads the way. Surprisingly, this remarkably stupid decision actually seems to lead them somewhere, until Sally and Gus catch up with him and find him with his metal detector pointing at the sky like a lightning rod. This could have been a very frightening scene if the sky didn't change. So I'ma make fun of it.
Tonight's the night. Get the tools. Let's go.
Thank you, I know I'm funny. Both Gus and Jake seems to go slightly crazy, with Gus joylessly giggling for no obvious reason and Jake putting on a hat and play an uplifting song on his harmonica. I'm guessing he was attempting to lift the mood, but they're dehydrated, they're starving, they haven't slept properly, they're cold. Time and place, man. You may have noticed as well, despite what was clearly a powder keg of drama being set earlier, with Sally's current boyfriend disassociating from the events and her former boyfriend taking charge, there hasn't been an awkward meltdown within the group. It's almost as if they understand that their shallow everyday lives are not important in the face of survival. That whatever petty squabbles they have don't actually matter in the circumstance. This should not be as refreshing as it is. The day turns to night and the horror grips tighter about them. Aircraft are struck from the skies, the forest howl with pain at night, and for no obvious reason and with no explanation, the warp core from in space with Markiplier shows up. Oh my god, it is an alternate reality! Damn you, player! The one ghost light is only the beginning, as soon it's as if the stars rain down from the sky, dashing like folkloric fairies about the terrified friends, scaring them to the very edge of sanity before suddenly Gus is yanked away into the dark. And the director forgets how to found footage. This isn't as above so below. Stop making the camera seem shell-shocked. Okay, that was actually pretty cool. Terrified and helpless, Sally retreats into herself for safety. In the morning, Jake pleads with her to come back, reasoning if they just keep moving, eventually they will find their way back to the road. They will either find Gus, or they will be picked up by a rescue team who may find him in turn. It's their most sensible option, and as if a prayer to be answered, they find their way back to the road, but they're not out of the woods yet.
Come on! We made it!
Electromagnetism can overload power lines. In fact, it is a genuine concern among concerned individuals that should the Earth be hit by an especially powerful solar rejection, we may experience a cataclysm the likes of which we have only seen in post-apocalypse movies, wherein all technology we have ever known ever will burn in solar fire. In fact, it happened in 1859. A coronal mass ejection collided with the Earth's magnetosphere, and telegraph stations burned. It was that powerful. And any electromagnetic sphere powerful enough to do that would have fried that camera like a crisp. Is it some sort of spring-powered camera? I mean, we're clearly in an alternate reality. I just want to know how everything works. Back on the road, they are not leaving it again. They pick a direction and follow it, running for their lives back towards civilization, towards the safe, sane world they know. But their exit is not so easy. Soon enough looms the carcass structures of the military base in the distance, abandoned and dilapidated, as if for months on end. Grass cracks and breaks the pavement, fortified fences are left open, and through the entire base, inside and out, not one person can be found. But a forgotten feed left running from Hangar 10 commits the cruel act of giving the duo hope, as it displays the prone body of Gus tucked into one of the many bunks of the barrack. Hold up! Have the aliens appropriated the hangar for their own use? Or did they catch Gus, do stuff to him, and let him go? Catch and release style? And if the hangar was only recently abandoned, why does everything look so shit? Their desperate sprint to save their friend becomes a descent into hell as they force the hangar doors open and step inside. A green-lit vestibule opens into a cavernous tunnel, stretching off like the alien tunnels in Geiger's nightmares. Halls of corpses spread out before them like the charnel houses of Victorian England, until the last secret of the facility is revealed. Yes, indeed, the Rendlesham UFO incident indeed take place. But so did Stargate. And here is some nice spiny necrophilia for you. I have no idea why that was included. Just enjoy it, you little freaks, go on! That actually summarizes the rest of the movie for what it's worth. Very little is explained, the clues were given contradict each other, everything going on only seems to exist to be creepy and epic. They find Gus, only now infected with the less aggressive form of the splinter parasite, and are forced to leave him. They emerge to a sky covered in spacecrafts the size of flying battleships. The one triangular pyramid emerges from the ground and returns to the fleet. Sally faints from shock and horror, and Jake... Jesus himself. I have no idea what just happened, but it looked cool. The biggest weaknesses of this movie are the effects. A lot of found footage movies have terrible effects, I have reviewed them on this channel, and it doesn't have to bring the entire movie down. I stand by my opinion on movies like Heidi and Wolf House. The issue here is the movie really doesn't have a hook outside of its alien presence. There's no overt silliness or gripping drama between the characters, there's no personality or individuality slipping out in moments of stress, they're all behaving impeccably. Three friends quietly keeping their heads down under threat of bullshit alien fuckery does not make for an interesting movie. What's being done with the aliens is interesting. Lost and alone, knowing the area isn't safe but not knowing from what or where they're running is a horrific situation to be in, especially as the terror from beyond grows closer with every passing day. But again, seeing how awfully the threat is conveyed turns it from a respectable horror experience into something you make fun of while drinking. I assume I'm still teetotal since Midsommar. It's a shame because there really could have been something here. Despite the silly effects, everyone delivers serious, believable performances. While the aliens sideline any kind of plot and character development, there clearly was history and chemistry between the people involved. Former girlfriend trying to move on while the ex still pines, clearly never to have a chance with her again. It could have gone somewhere with this, but the aliens put any kind of drama on the back burner. That is how catastrophe and trauma should work, in my opinion. It should be bigger than everyone involved. But it also meant whatever could have been interesting about the characters was washed away. The strength of the film is its pacing, tension and mystery. It knows how to foreshadow the threat without spoiling it all at once. It builds the quiet despair at the characters' helplessness in the face of overwhelming odds. They don't know what's out there, but it's mighty enough to strike battle planes out of the sky, and they are lost in its immediate territory. Is it military aircraft? Is it a metaphysical force? Is it an extraterrestrial presence so unnatural its very presence sets their hair on end? Only the end may tell, and who knows whether they will make it that far. Well, you do now when I have spoiled it, but still. The Rendlesham UFO incident is what happens when a director doesn't work with the practical limitations, hoping it will turn out well in the end. A well-executed directorial triumph where camera, events, actors, environments and revelations make for a compelling story, but the strength of all those other things depend on the believability of the threat. If you can look past the atrocious special effects, there might be something here for you, but in my opinion you'd get more out of Earth to Echo, or even the Phoenix incident, than this movie. I sentence the Rendlesham UFO incident to a 6 on a scale of 11. It's not a bad movie, it's just hampered by its limitations. Which I suppose does make it a bad movie. Thank you all for watching, I have been Cause Scratches, and I hope you will join me again next time when... I'll relocate my testicles and finally review Cloverfield. The first one, not the other two.